Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here, and today I'm going to be doing a 5-year review of all the parts that I've ever installed on the R3. Now, not all the parts that I've installed on the R3 have been 5 years. There is a lot of parts that I've just recently installed on the bike, but I'll give you a small review even though it hasn't been 5 years with those parts. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to be going from front to back. Alright, so we're going to start off with the front over here, and first off we're going to start off is with the windscreen. Now this is still the stock windscreen right over here, and the only thing I did with the windscreen was plasti dip it from the other side with black plasti dip. The only thing that's really going on with the front windscreen is that you can see a lot of swirl marks on it due to the washing and the wear and tear, and somehow I got a little stain over here, which I have no idea how that even came about. But other than that, it's holding on very well. I'm going to be doing a future video coming up soon with the windscreen, which I'll be removing that decal. Alright, next up would be the mirrors. I do have little extension plates on the mirrors on both sides, and these extension plates extend the mirrors out just a little bit, and they also have a camera mount. So with the camera mount, I put these little foam pieces on it over here on both sides, just to dampen the vibrations so don't come through on the camera footage. Alright, so let's continue on and move further down. Now on the whole bike, I used to have a red and white bike, but then I changed the color and I did a candy apple red, and that's throughout the bike. The paint from a distance looks fantastic, but as you can see up close in certain parts when we get to it, that the paint started chipping in some areas, and I don't know if that was because of the paint that was used, or maybe the product, or maybe a combination of both. Alright, so you can see that I do have my center light blacked out, and that was because of the headlights that I did. And let's move on to the bottom. Alright, so now we're here over here at the bottom, and like I said, I do have this piece over here blacked out because of the blackout that I did over for the headlights. Now if you saw my video that I recently posted about my multicolored DRLs, here they are. And I know that I posted that video not too long ago, but actually these DRLs I've had on the bike for already 3 years. Now I haven't changed it. My intent was to do different types of headlights every year, but I fell in love with these headlights honestly, and I never really changed it. So that's why I kept on having these lights, plus so much positive reviews and so many likes, and people are just amazed and wondering what kind of bike this was. So these lights, like I said, have been on the bike for approximately 3 years now, but it's going to be time to do a future new headlight, so stay tuned for that. And speaking about staying tuned, I'll have a description down below. I'll have every single part that I've installed on this bike. I'll have a link for that installation video down in the description below, so check it out. If there's something that I covered on the bike that you like say for these instance this DRL lights, just check down in the description box below and you'll see a link to that video installation. Alright, so moving on. So underneath the headlight, as you could see, I got this what they call bat wing or whatnot. It's just pretty much a fairing piece that goes in addition with the headlight. Now, so far I haven't had any issues with that piece. I never even got it painted. Actually, it's just still the same color as I got it when it got shipped. And it just adds actually styling to the bike. That's all I could say about it. Haven't had any issues with it. Okay, so now because I did black out my headlights, this is pretty much where the headlights would have been, but because I plasti dipped it and blacked it out, I did need a form of headlights. So I installed these guys. Now these are 2-inch in diameter Denali auxiliary lights, and that's what I was using at the time for headlights, and they do an amazing job of lighting up the road. I did buy some eBay ones and they didn't last. So these were a little bit on the more pricier side, but well worth the money. Next up is the fairing, still stock fairing, nothing new there. The only thing that's different is the candy apple red paint job. After that, I do have these auxiliary lights by Denali also, and these are 1-inch with a little filter on here to kind of disperse the light a little bit more compared to these lights where it's just a clear glass. It projects more of a spotlight. So these products haven't been on the bike. Well, these have been on for a little while, but these ones in the fairings have, I just recently did a video on it, so those are maybe a few months old. And so far I did ride on the road a little bit, and these work well as for if you have this type of setup. I would say these work well as a low beam, and these will be good for a high beam or for actually more lighting. Alright, so let's move on over to this side, and as you can see, I don't have the fork stabilizer bar over here anymore. It's just that I couldn't get used to on how it felt. I mean, it's kind of like stiffened up the forks just a bit much for my liking, so I just removed it. So I just couldn't get used to it, so that's the reason for that. So I don't have that on there anymore. I have the 4 crash sliders. Now these These were originally all red, but I didn't want so much red, and I just painted this a flat color black and just left this part over here red, just to give an accent color to match the bike. So I'll show you that in a second, as you could see right over here. Next up would be, and I haven't had any issues with these particular ones, the ones that I originally had on here, the screw seemed to have vibrated off, and the whole thing just came off and I lost it out on the road. So that's why I don't have those other ones. But these are a little bit, I think, better built. The wave rotors. Now you got these really huge wave rotors. These were pretty much 1 inch in diameter bigger than stock, and because of that I needed to get an extension plate to relocate the caliper further out to accommodate it. Now this is the aftermarket big wave rotor kit. If you decided to get the Galfer brand rotor kit, those are the exact same diameter as stock, and you do not need this extra plate. So if you got Galfer brand, you don't need the plate. If you got the different brand, which are the bigger ones, you do need this plate. Now I am trying to work with other manufacturers to see if I can get this plate customized to get it out there more, because getting this plate was a real pain in the butt. All right, next up will be, oh, and by the way, these are new, and I'm still breaking them in with the brake pads. Now just a little insight with the braking system. I would say having steel braided brake lines, EBC street pads, and this type of rotor gives the braking system a little bit better bite compared to all stock where it was more squishy. So I would say that 3 combination thing does help the braking system a lot more. Next what we got is the reflective tape I have on the rims, and these are 5 years old, still holding up very well. I would say maybe the rear ones where the tape overlaps the other tape for the rear is just peeling just a little bit, but other than that they're still really reflective when the light hits it, and I just would say that they're really good. I mean, originally when I got the bike, it had this red strip and I thought it was reflective, but it was actually just a painted strip, so it didn't do anything. So having this reflective tape really helps a lot when trying to be seen. Alright, so now behind the bike, as you can see, I have this plastic cover that goes in front of the headers, and it's working out very well. I mean, it does give the bike a little bit character, and I haven't had anything bad happen to it. I did have an RNG metal guard over there, and that happened to get a hole in it after a few years. Ever since then, I replaced it with this one, and no issues. I think I've had this for probably around 2 to 3 years on that one. Above that, I do have a Radiator Guard or Radiator Grill cover. That one only cost me, I would say, like $10, and I actually made that myself, and it's not even bolted in. It's just kind of the metal's been folded over to just be kind of held in place, and I've not had any issues whatsoever making my own radiator guard, well, grill guard or whatnot. So that's been 5 years, and I even spray painted it black, and not even the paint has chipped from it, and it's still holding good. Next we got the brake pads that are inside here. I do have the new brake pads front and rear. I would say that's probably around 6 months old, and right away when you change the brake pads to different types of brake pads, these are ABC sintered street pads, you do get a little bit extra bite compared to the stock ones, and so far they've been working out very well, and I do highly recommend getting different types of brake pads for your brake system. Next would be the steel braided brake lines. I got these from Spiegler. Now this top part is black, but I decided to get this part anodized in red just to match the color of the bike. I got those as soon as I had my first accident. After that, the braking system slightly improved compared to stock. So like I said before, having steel braided brake lines, different street pads, and these types of rotors are definitely a big upgrade to the braking system, and highly recommend you doing the same. Okay, next we move on to the side fairing, and the only thing different over here is the corner light here, or the side turn signals. These are the TST Industries Halo flush mounts, but I'll turn them on for you so you guys can see the light. So I did get the clear glass with the white halo. Now here is a picture of showing of all the different colors they have. They have the clear lens style, then they also have the dark smoke style. So I just wanted more visibility, so I just stuck with the clear. And then when you put the turn signal, it goes from white to yellow, and then once you've finished making your turn, it goes back to white, and it's just the halo, it's not the center part. You know what, speaking of signals, I forgot to show you the front signals that I just recently did. I almost forgot about it just because they are hidden and you can't see them. As you can see, the front fairing actually covers them, and even over here you can't even see them at all. So let me put those turn signals so you guys can see them. Let me turn off these lights. Now here is a better angle to see the hidden turn signals. Like I said, I totally forgot to show you this, guys, but I have a signal here and a signal here. Let me go ahead and turn on my hazard lights so you can see them both turn on at the same time. So this is an actual install I just did a week ago, and these are really nice to have, especially to have something, you know, in front, because as you could see, that little tiny dot, not everyone can see that, but these for sure could get the attention of oncoming drivers that are in front of you when you signal that you're making the turn. So if I were to put the turn signal, there you go, you could see that they light up very well. And as you can see, these little guys you can't even barely see at all. These guys for sure. And then if I were to make another turn over here, you could see it, and good luck even trying to see that signal on that side at all. But for sure these you're able to see. I feel like they work great, and I've noticed a change when I'm out there riding, that cars are, when they see me that I put my signal, that they don't just cut right in front of me. Now they're able to see that I'm actually going to be making a lane change, and they actually pause to let me do the turn. Alright, moving on from the signals, let's go ahead and turn that off. Next we got the Shorty Levers. Now, comparing these to the $200 Shorty Levers, I would say these $20 Shorty Levers from eBay were not bad. These are 5 years old. I got them as soon as I got the bike, and they've been holding on very well. Now the only difference is, I think, between these and the $200 ones is this. The little bit of wiggle. But other than that, they hold on very well. They're made out of aluminum, very light. You do have, you know, different adjustment settings here. You know, if you want the handle further out, or maybe you want the handle further in, you know, you have that adjustability. Other than that, as long as you keep them lubricated over here at the pivot points, you're good to go. I mean, the quality is still good. I would say that the finish of the aluminum anodizing that's on it is not as vibrant as it once was when I first got them 5 years ago, but they're still red. You still could tell. You would figure right over here this probably be turning silver, but it's not, and it's still holding up very well. So the color, like I said, maybe they're not as vibrant as it was when I first got them 5 years ago, but they're still holding very well, and the finish of it is still decent. And I would say that for both sides. And go over to the other side over here, same thing. Nothing really wrong with them. Like I said, the only differences I think between the $200 ones and these ones is this. Other than that, like I said, they hold up very well. And here's the clutch side. No real issues with these at all. So totally up to you guys on what you prefer. If this thing kind of bothers you, then go with the $200 ones. If this doesn't bother you, then eBay ones are not bad at all. Or Amazon, it doesn't matter, as long as it's pretty much those type of brand. Alright, continuing on over here on the top, aftermarket little plate over here that does say R3. Only thing that happened to this is that the bolts on the top got rusted. I was afraid that I would have to cut this to get the bolts out, but the bolts are still holding up pretty well and they come out fairly easy. Next up over here is the handlebars. Now the hand grips I recently changed, and I do feel a big difference on grip. Now this does have a little bit more of the little bumps, and these grip really good. Bare hand, they grip fantastic. Even with gloves, you have a little bit more control with the bike having something like this compared to the stock ones. The stock ones were okay, but they were really smooth, so you won't notice it until you get something like this on the differences from the grip. Now this is the Critic Buster. Now this is something I definitely recommend, especially for long trips. You know, you do get tired of holding your hand like that, so having something to put your palm on and rest while you hold the throttle down, definitely recommend this. Had this for 5 years, wouldn't go a day without it. Now if you're not planning to do a highway run, you could always move this to the side, off out of the way, and just have this. But when doing the run, you could just go ahead and adjust it, so when you're giving it throttle or whatnot, have it up here, so once you're going, you could just rest your palm on it. The bar ends also 5 years, and if you saw my video, I actually did a video on how to put a decal over these. They do sell bar ends that already have the carbon fiber look to it, but like I said, these were hand-me-down bar ends, and I didn't feel like spending any extra money. Now, they came out really good, as you can see. I did have some old decal tape on it, and it was just time to change it. But the bar ends, they held out very nicely, and as you can see, they do stick out, you know, further out more than the originals. The originals kind of stick out just a little bit off of the bar, and these stick out, you know, double that. These have been holding on very well. The switch for my 4-ways, now, as you can see, it does have a little bit of a light shining in there to let me know about the 4-ways, but I also do have the click indicator relays, and that's why you hear the clicky noise. So that's for my 4-ways. This housing is all made out of aluminum. Comes with this little rubber piece, which really kind of comes off fairly easy, but I need to kind of probably glue it. So I've got stuck in the rain with this bike, and so far no issues. Like I said, it was pouring rain, and I don't think it had affected the switch at all. So, and the quality of the switch is very good, even where the wire comes out. Next up will be this little bracket that I had changed out a long time ago. I would say probably 5 years ago, maybe, or maybe 4.5. But I'm not sure why the original bracket broke, so I replaced it with this one, and no issues. It hasn't cracked or anything. Still holding up very well. Next, we got the fork stem covers, and I got this one here, here, and here, all 3 of them in a matching set. They were pricey, I would say. They are made out of aluminum, and I got the gunmetal color. They do have different colors, but I decided to just go with aluminum, the gunmetal color. So far, the design on it is very good quality. Like I said, they were on the pricey side, and no scratches on it. I do tend to keep my keys away from this area so it doesn't scratch the aluminum. Next up, I do have a decal here, a custom decal that says lock off, and over here says therapy, because really that's what our bikes are. You know, when you get out there on your bike and you ride, it's just therapy on 2 wheels, really. So I'm not actually sure what happened to my original. I did have one on there, but it disappeared. Next over here is my air temperature gauge. Now, it's not the coolant temperature of the bike, but it is the air ambient temperature. So if I were to turn on the bike, you could see that it is 50 degrees in the garage right now, 50.3 degrees. You know, this just tells me the temperature outside right now, or, you know, the air outside. And yeah, comes in handy, especially when you're out riding. You know, you may layer up, or you may not have that many layers, you know, and to know what the temperature is out, you know, you'll know for next time that maybe you had to put too much layers or whatnot. It's just, you know, for me, it's just nice to have something like this. I did have a different one on here, and that other one didn't last. I would say probably only a month after I changed that one out and got this one. This one's been on the bike for 4 years, so almost 5 years actually with this one. And it's a lot smaller than that other one, and it looks a lot cooler. And if you're wondering about the probe, there is a probe that's connected with this temperature gauge, and let me show you that right now. I have it located here in the front underneath the bike, and if you guys see right there, there is the probe for the temperature sensor. I have it in the front because as it's catching the wind, I have it connected to I made this little plastic piece that holds the probe. That's how it's actually getting the temperature of the air. Next up, moving up to the top. Now, I did make a custom bar bracket here, or bar mount location to hold extra accessories, because at the time, you know, Ram didn't have anything for the R3, especially to connect a cell phone or a GPS or whatnot. So I made my own custom bar, and it's been holding up fantastic. No issues. I even changed. I did have a different GPS bracket to hold the GPS, but honestly, after a few times riding, connecting the GPS to that bracket was such a pain in the butt that I decided to go with this universal style, which is like spring loaded. All you have to do is just pull the springs up, put your device in there, and it holds it very well. And then with this little rubber band thing, you hold or put it to the corners of your device, either cell phone or GPS, and it's there securely, and it's not going to go anywhere. So I find myself to use this universal bracket more than the GPS bracket. Now the GPS bracket is just collecting dust inside the house. Next up is I have my tire pressure monitoring system. Now, as you can see, it's blinking from top to bottom. The bottom is the back tire, the top is the front tire, and this is the PSI. So right now the top has 43 PSI, the bottom is 44 PSI. Now, this is really good to have. They also have a Bluetooth monitoring system that you could get that would just connect to your phone, but I decided to just get something like this because, you know, I just like to not have too many things on my phone. It's up to you. There's 2 different types of options you could get, this type or the cell phone type. When you do encounter a low pressure on your tires, this will warn you right away, and the little green light will actually turn red. So whichever tire is really low on air or starts to lose air, it'll show you by having this little bar turn red. Now, I did have that happen to me where my back tire started losing air and the little bar turned from green to red and it started beeping really loud. I had actually heard it through my helmet on the highway. Now, when I had stopped to inspect it, I noticed that I caught a small nail in my tire. I was able to pull the nail out and patch it up and get on my way safely to a tire place to get the tire didn't replace. So this definitely comes in handy. Let me show you the little sensors that attach to your wheel. Alright, so here's the sensor that attaches to your wheel. It just goes onto your valve stem. The sensor relays the information to the front. Now inside here is two little tiny button cell batteries, and I've had this on for, I would say, probably a year or so, and I haven't had to replace the batteries yet. So far it's the batteries are lasting fairly well. Alright, now moving down to the gauge cluster. Now the gauge cluster I just recently did, and here is a question from a subscriber asking me on how does this gauge cluster look like in the daytime. Now when I went out riding today, I took a picture with the sunlight hitting it, and honestly guys, in the real daylight, when the sun doesn't hit it and you hit this weird spot where there's no sunlight but yet it's too bright, it doesn't really show the gauge too much. But as soon as the sun hits it, it's almost like it gets reflective and you could see all the numbers and everything on there, except for this part. This part, even though I have it blue, as soon as the light hits it, it actually turns white. And I think because the LEDs are not directly behind the numbers, they actually reflect off of a piece of plastic to give it a glow. So even though it's kind of bluish now, when the sun hits it, it actually is white. Not until it gets really dark that you could actually see the blue. If you guys are very wanting to really see the information that's displayed on your gauges, I would say not to put a red color or any dark color. I would say either invert it or light colors. Like I would say maybe a very light blue works very well, or any light color, or like I said, just keep inverted would be your best bet. Alright, so I got my clutch cable adjuster here, and if you could see, the paint has started to come off, and the only reason it came off is because I had to use the pliers to actually twist it because it was just so hard on the tension, and that's the only reason that the paint started coming off. But other than that, if it wasn't for that, this still would be in really good condition. Over here, I like it because of the design, and I have nothing else much to say about it, really. I mean, it's doing its job and it hasn't broken on me yet. Alright, next up in the lineup we got will be the tank cover. Now, as you saw from my videos, the first tank cover I got looked like garbage. Now this one, it looks really good, and from a distance it looks really awesome. But when you look up close, bam, right there, you can see that it does not line up with the gas tank part over here, or the gas refill thing. I don't know what happened. It did line up at the beginning, but after a while, I don't know if it shifted or whatnot, or me constantly removing it off the bike, because I do a lot of installation stuff, that it just doesn't line up properly. And I've tried so many times to really line it up and it's just not doing it. Second thing is that you notice that I don't have the carbon fiber piece anymore. It actually started to break apart after a month. And then the carbon fiber, not the carbon fiber, but the clear coat that it has started peeling, breaking apart, and yeah, at the end it just flew away. I don't know what happened to it. The only thing that really stuck on was this piece and the little piece that goes here that covers the keyhole. I'll probably do a video in the future. I may just paint this and then just paint the screws red. I know you're probably saying I could just buy the red screws, but why spend money when you could just use a little bit of paint and get creative? Stay tuned for that video. I'll probably do a video on that. Next up is we got the carbon fiber tank pad. Now, so far it's been holding up very nicely, except for this part. I'm not exactly sure how this even happened. Why only this little corner piece on this side broke off. But when you look at it very closely, oh, now it's going out of focus there. But looking at it very closely, it kind of just looks like to me that it's not a real carbon fiber. I'm sure it's not, because or else it would have been extremely more expensive than what it was. This thing was 50 bucks, so for me that's pretty pricey. And for 50 bucks, I wouldn't expect this to happen. So for me, it just looks like a kind of a carbon fiber weave, but more like a decal. And then they kind of just put a lot of epoxy or clear coat or resin or whatever to give it that shiny look. So I'm kind of really disappointed on that, on why that little corner chipped off. Now it did say R3 on it, but I did cover it with this other carbon fiber decal, because I just didn't want too much R3 badging on the bike. I kind of want to keep it mysterious. Only to those who really know how the R3 looks like will know that this is an R3. I should turn off the bike. But then for those who don't know, all they see is the R, and then they ask me what kind of bike is it. Next with the tank cover is that you've noticed that I do not have the side grip guards anymore. Now reason is that I did get the cheap eBay ones, and that's what they were, cheap. Even though the material of the rubber was awesome, it's the sticky part that was horrible. It didn't last, and if I have a picture, I'll post it up here. And as you could see, they started falling apart within a month. They were okay when the bike was standing still, but once I started riding, they started coming apart. Now I noticed that the tank grips already, the original company that makes them, Tank Grip I believe that the company is called, they already started making it obviously for the 2019 R3, and the 2019 R3 has the same, I would say, kind of style to this particular tank cover, so I'll be purchasing those good ones and I'm going to be putting them on to the tank cover. Now the stickiness that comes with, or the glue that comes with those particular brand is a lot better, so in the future I'm going to be installing those. So that's that with the tank and the tank pad cover and all those areas. Now moving along to the bottom over here on the side, we do got the frame sliders by Sato Racing. I've already had a few accidents and they've held up really well, and I recommend for any of you guys looking to get frame sliders to definitely get them, because they do save the plastics of the bike. Now as you can see, they are scuffed up at the bottom, but that's okay, that's what they're meant for. And if they do really get scuffed up, I can always replace this piece compared to replacing everything over here. So it's better to replace this compared to all this, which will get really expensive. So these definitely held up good, and there is no damage to the frame, which I was kind of worried about, but I would say because of the construction of how these frame sliders are, these are kind of an expensive side, but you do get what you paid for, and it's because of the bracket and the way this is constructed that it held up, and no damage to any parts of the bike. Next we got the race fairings over here. Now these are not the stock ones, these are aftermarket, because they also have a little vent down there. And these were a little bit of pain in the butt to install, really just the top part, but once you get the screw in, it holds its own. I did have to remove the RNG case covers that I had on both this side and the other side, because this piece would not allow me to have it because it just wouldn't fit. So I had to remove it. So far it's been okay and no issues. The only thing I had to do was at the bottom, I'll drill 2 holes, put a zip tie, and then a screw on the other side to hold everything fairly in its place. Next up is we got the frame hole cover. Nothing else I could say about it. I mean, it hasn't fallen out the bike yet, and it's still designed still okay, so that's all I could say about that. They do have different designs. I just decided to just go with the stock Yamaha emblem. Next up we got the foot pegs. Now the foot pegs, I decided to go with the wide foot peg just because I wanted something to really, you know, give me that comfort, especially for, I do a lot of long distance riding, even for short trips. You know, having something where most of your foot gets covered is definitely a lot more comfortable than just having a stick over here. So definitely recommend getting something like this. But if you are doing track days, getting low and on your bike, something like this would not be ideal, and you could pretty much damage them. Next, I got the Aftermarket heel guards. Nothing else I could say about them. You know, made out of pretty thick aluminum compared to the stock one, which makes it look like thick aluminum, but it's not thick aluminum. It's just really thin aluminum. Has a design to it. Looks nice. And so far holding up. Next up is we got the rear brake reservoir cap. And same thing. Nothing else I could say about it. I mean, a little bit of the paint coming off here, but other than that, it's holding on. I mean, design still looks nice for me. I have seen other covers that I kind of like to get, but you know, this one's still holding up fairly nice, and until I get extremely sick of it, that's when I'll replace it. Also got the rear steel braided brake lines with the accent anodizing here, just like the fronts. I also got the same foot pegs for the rear passenger, so when I do have a rear passenger, they could feel comfortable as well on the bike. That really always stays up anyway. Next up will be the exhaust. Now my exhaust is made by Two Brothers Racing, and it's a carbon fiber can with a titanium piping. Now if you notice this little black stuff is just because I got caught in the rain and I had to wear my rain gear, and my rain gear started flapping in the wind, and it actually hit the rear of the pipe, which was really hot still, even though the water was hitting it, and it kind of melted my pants a little bit because the pants are made of like a windbreaker material. If you saw my video on how to get rid of this tarnish, after I did the tarnish cleaning, it actually lasted for 9 months. After that, it started getting back to the tarnish look. So I'm already due to do another cleaning of the pipe, but other than that, it's really good. And this is not a slip-on. This is actually a full exhaust from front all the way to the headers. So this is the S1R full exhaust from Two Brothers. All right, now let's move on to the back. You notice that I don't currently have my rear tire hugger or fender whatnot. It's because I'm still working on my bike. Next up is we got the shock tube, and this thing just does a good job of keeping the rear shock from getting a bunch of debris. It looks cool, and that's about all I could say about that. And next up in the back rear, same thing almost as the front. I did do the rear wave rotors, and they give a little bit of a more bite. Like I said, like the front's definitely a lot more bite than the rear, but still looks cool. Next will be the rear swing arm sliders. Same thing as the fronts. They were red. I decided to paint them a flat black in this right there, and just keep the center part red. Then I changed out the rear swing arm spools to give it the kind of the same. It's a little bit of the same design like this one, but I decided just to keep those all black. I'll probably do in a future video where it'll be involving the chain tensioner bolts because I do have a little bit of a difficulty to get my my rear stands in this area because it's just so tight. All right, so now before we get too far in the back, go over here. I do have a battery tender, and I have the cable here. Now I found out that this little pocket over here is a perfect spot to keep your tender when you're not using it. Just go ahead and pop that little guy in there. Nice little spot. All right, next up we got the Louis Moto seat covers. Now these I had custom made. Originally these were Alcantara, and I didn't go with the Alcantara just because I'm out on the elements, and Alcantara is very high maintenance, and that's not something I'm looking for. So if I were to spill anything on the seats or I get caught in the rain, I could always wipe these down. Just leather. These little puffy parts do give a little bit more cushioning, but honestly guys, I don't even feel it. So when I'm out riding, I don't feel the extra cushioning. As far as the seat's concerned, I couldn't tell you because I don't have any passengers to give me any feedback of how the seat feels. But other than that, you get off of it, it definitely looks cool. It looks a lot better than your originally stock seats. Next up, we got the rear R1 style tail area. So far, it's holding up very well. I like the look of it, and it just definitely keeps the bike at a more modern look. The only thing I would say is that this rear cover, the center cover, as you can see, I don't have any screws on there, and it's just because behind here where the screws go into, it's just so thin that because I do a lot of bike stuff, that constantly removing the screws in and out, I think that it's just not meant for that. So behind there, where the screw is, it kind of deteriorated, and it just does. There's nothing there really. So I was thinking about just in the future getting some bolts or whatnot, or the nut, and just kind of gluing it and just having something for the screw to actually hold on to. But for now, it's kind of just being held in place because of the seat. And then nextly, what I was telling you before about the paint chipping and everything, well, there it is. There's a paint chip right there and a paint chip right there. Now I'm not sure if it's because of the paint, but if you guys know what it is, if it's the paint or if it's the body work, you guys post what you think it is in the comments below. So the tail over here, as you can see, and even on this side, still looks really good. I love the tail, love the way it looks. You know, it definitely changes the body style of the R3 for sure. Now if you notice, I do have carbon fiber up here. Now this is only a wrap that I did. I didn't do a video on it because I just wanted something to break apart the color. Now when I originally wanted it painted, I wanted this to be black and this part to be red, but the person who painted my tail or my bike didn't follow my instructions for the paint scheme and decided to paint everything red. So really, I should have just gotten this from when I bought it, this carbon fiber, and just painted from them instead of getting an aftermarket paint. But this is just my own, you know, nothing real professional, as you could see. I mean, it was just something to do because I was bored and I just wanted to break the colors apart. But you know, If I was doing it on a more professional level, I would do a lot better job than just this. But for now, it's holding up nicely, you know, and it just kind of changes the look a little bit. You know, nothing too spectacular on the way I wrapped it. And then pretty much almost lastly is the TST Industries tail light. Now, to me, in my opinion, I think the TST Industries tail light is the best looking tail light out there for the R3. Now let me go ahead and turn it on so you guys could see it. So there it is, the TST Industries tail light. Like I said, I don't know why the R3 didn't come like that, but as you can see, the tail light looks really good. Next would be the little light I actually changed out and put a plasma light here, which really illuminates the license plate very well. Had no issues with that light so far yet. I also got rid of the rear fender and got the Fender Eliminator, and nothing else I could say about it. I mean, it's made good quality and it hasn't failed me yet. After this, now we got the aftermarket turn signals, which I installed one over here and one over here, which I'll turn on for you in a second. Other than that, besides that, I do have a couple of LED strips here. This one here on the inner part, those are for my LED glow. After that, I have these ones are on the outside, and those are for my brake lights. So when I do put the brake lights on, these will start strobing in a blinking fashion to really let the drivers behind me know that I'm actually coming to a stop for them, and to get their attention really, so they know I'm coming to a stop, because this little tail light, even though it looks really cool up close, from a distance you cannot see it that much. Alright, so I'm gonna put the camera on the tripod so you guys could see all the functioning area over here in the back. Alright, so right now we're gonna go with the turn signals in the rear, and let me show you that. So we'll go off with the left turn signal. Then we're going to go with the right turn signal. And then we'll go with the four ways. Alright, so you can see already how bright those turn signals are. Now next after that, now we're going to go with the brake lights. Now the brake lights, I do have it connected with my TST Industries light. So let me just go over here to further back so you guys could see everything all at once. So you're going to see the brake light I also have in a strobing type fashion, where the brake light over here will blink and then it'll be a steady on, but this one will continue to blink all the time. So when I put my brakes, you could see that these are going to be constantly blinking forever until I let go of the brake, but this one in the middle only blinks for a little bit and then stays a steady on. Or whatnot. I think it's just on the regular on. Okay, so it looks like I only have it as a regular on, but this one is the blinking one. But you could change, there's different modes on this one that you could actually change to actually do a strobe pattern or blink a different type of blink option. And even with the turn signals. So when you saw that I had the turn signals down here, the turn signals up here were blinking. So I turn it on so you guys could see that on the turn signals I have them as just a steady blink on and off kind of thing. But you could change the way they actually project. A few different options for the turn signals on the tail light. Now let me show you the rear tire hugger. Alright guys, so here is the rear tire hugger. Like I said, I don't have it on the bike right now because I am doing still some work on my bike. Now the rear tire hugger, originally, as you could see, the hole was forward a little bit because it was hitting the tire. All I had to do was actually re-drill the holes, as you could see on the underneath side. See, these were the original holes. That's where the hugger was originally positioned. Over here and over here and over here. But like I said, it was hitting the tires, so all you have to do if you have this encounter is just move the tire hugger just a little bit, like meaning this piece, just move it back a little bit and re-drill the holes and then put your bolts in. And the same thing over here, just re-drill over here, move it to the side and move this to the side, and just that's all you have to do is just pretty much a small adjustment to get it to really fit your tire. And also because I did do a tire upgrade where I did got a bigger size tire, so that's the only adjustment you have to do. Now I'm not sure if that's because of that it cracked. As you can see over here, it's cracked. It never got any bigger than that, so it's just there. Besides that crack, over here it cracked too. And I think that's because I do a lot of work on my bike and constantly remove this tire hugger. But it's cracked over here, it was cracked over there. Over here is pretty decent. Other side over here is, besides that crack, it's pretty decent. And only other, I think that's pretty much about it for that. Then here's the back end. So other than that, still holding fairly well. And then over here, I think it's just getting scuffed because that's where the brake line is, and the brake line's constantly moving around, and it's just kind of took the paint off or something. Because you could actually see the fiberglass and the epoxy over here. So other than that, the tire hugger is still pretty decent. And once I'm done working on my bike, I'll put this back on my bike. But they do have a few different other styles, and this one still looks pretty cool, but there is another style. Here's a picture of it. I think that looks really cool. It's a more modern look. Then here's another style that has the shark fins on it, and that looks pretty cool too. Alright, so I decided to get my GPS tracker, and I put it over here for now. That's not exactly the spot where I really keep it at, but I do have a GPS tracker on the bike, so if my bike were to ever get stolen, I'll be notified right away to my cell phone that my bike is being moved, and they'll be showing via live on a GPS, on a map, showing me where my bike is going. So I haven't really tested out the system that much, but I do get tons of alerts every time I move my bike. Next up is I have a power commander with auto tune, and I've had that for 5 years. I actually got my bike tuned with it, and what a difference it makes when you get your bike tuned at the dyno and by a professional. It does give you more horsepower, and if you saw my videos on that, you would gain from stock. I gain, I believe, 3 horsepower from stock, maybe more, all thanks to the power commander. Now there's another option you could go. You could actually get your ECU flashed and open up the bike even more too. So those are your 2 options for any type of fuel management and horsepower of your bike. And then, oh, before I even forget, I need to show you this other part. Wanted to show you guys that I still have the pod filters installed, as you can see right there. Now with the pod filters, I've noticed that it gives my exhaust a little bit more grunt when I'm have it on, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But yeah, I mean, thanks to the auto tune, it saved me $300 to get my bike tuned. Is pretty much what it costs to get the bike tuned, because I did this upgrade, or this change, I would say. But as you can see inside, let's see if I can get in there. But I do still have the K10 pod filters in the bike, and it's been really good. I would say definitely opens up space on the bike, as you can see, since the stock air filter box is not in there anymore, and it allows the bike to breathe a lot better. Check that video out, guys. So yeah, so without further ado, let me go ahead and put this piece of plastic back on there. Let me turn on the bike so you guys could hear on the more grunty sound that it gives the exhaust. Now for the tires, the ones I had replaced the stock ones. The stock ones were Michelin's, and I would say that those are good for commuting. If you're just taking the bike back and forth to work or visiting friends or whatnot and not doing anything crazy, I would say stick with the stock ones. But just to let you know that if you try to, you know, build confidence on trying to lean your bike with stock ones, I won't recommend it, because there's just no grip on those kind of tires, especially for really sharp leans. You'll start to slip. So those tires are good for long wear, not much grip. Now the ones I have on my bike now are the Bridgestone Battle Axe S20 Evos. And I did upgrade the tire size. As you can see on the back, it is a little bit bigger than the stock. Now the tire size I have here in the back is 150 60 17, and for the front is 110 70 17. Now these tires are amazing, but the only thing is with these kind of tires is that the lifespan of these are very short. So you're gonna have to make up your mind on what you would like best. For me, I recommend these kind of tires just because it builds confidence when really hitting the twisties and trying to, you know, get a little bit, you know, familiar with your bike on leaning it as far as you can and stuff like that. So having tires that grip better has its ups and downs. For me, I like it just because even though they have short-term life on the tires, that just means I could change different tires. You know, like say you know, I try these Bridgestones, but maybe next year I would like to try some other brand tires. So that's what this allows me to do and see how well that those perform. But for me right now, so far, I like these Bridgestones. I also wanted to mention about these tires is that once you get them, they're going to be kind of pointy in the middle here. So they come to a point which kind of drops the bike super easy in the lane. So you could just drop it left or right really good on a lean when you get when they're brand new. Once you wear them down a little bit, as you can see, you start to get a little bit of a flat spot just because it depends on what type of terrain, you know, not terrain, but you know how you're riding your bike. Obviously I don't hit corners or curves all that often, so mainly on just flat surface, straight riding, so therefore that's why you get the flat spot. Okay, next up in this department would be I do have a different chain and sprocket. I have a rear sprocket new and the front sprocket, which is located right over here behind this cover here. So both of those have been changed, and reason for the change is just because I needed it just needed to be changed. It was already the chain has already been stretched out and it was already at its limits. When I got the new stuff, I just had everything replaced all at once. You definitely want to do that. You definitely don't want to change the chain and keep the sprocket, because the chain and the sprocket wear together. Also the front one, so everything all wears all together. And if you only change one thing and not the other, it could lead to having something wear out more faster than the other. Now moving on down on this side, I also got a chain, not a chain guard, but I guess it's a chain guard. It's also called toe guard, and I'm guessing it's called that because if you were to have an accident and your bike falls on this side, your toe can actually get caught over here by what the chain is, so, and the sprocket. So having something like this definitely will keep your feet safe. And honestly guys, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Since it is at the bottom, I totally forget about it. So, but other than that, it's holding very well. It's not bent or dent or damaged anything, and still looking good. And finally, over here on this side, we have gear shift lever. Now the original, after having my first accident, I had changed it out and I wanted something more solid, and this one is completely solid all around. Is that when I had my accident, this part over here actually got bent in, and when I looked at it over here at the bottom, it was actually spot welded on one side, one spot weld here and one spot weld here in the back, and that was on the stock. So after having that accident and having it bent, I was looking for something a little bit more solid, and then I found this one, which is complete all of aluminum, very solid. This part's adjustable, so if you wanted to adjust this part forward or backward, you can. Only thing is on this one, if I could zoom in a little bit, is that the rubber pieces that come with this are already cracking. So I'm gonna have to probably just remove one and then just go to the hardware store to see if I could find something similar to replenish it and have it back to new again, I would say. But other than that, the lever works awesome. It works fine, no issues. I did have a second accident and this thing didn't even bend or flinch or anything, so having something very solid works well. And lastly, the side stand extension plate. Now the side stand extension plate is all aluminum, and I did put Loctite on all the screws, but for some reason those two screws right here in the middle vibrated off and disappeared, so I have no idea, but all the other screws are still intact. And then other than that, on the bottom, you could see I do have a rubber piece right here with the plate. Now, if I didn't have that rubber piece, it would be just all aluminum, and obviously it'll get all scratched up. Having aluminum on the floor, I would feel it would be a lot more easier and prone to sliding. So I decided to put a rubber patch on the bottom to give it just a little bit more grip when I put the side stand down. I definitely don't want my bike to slide when I put the side stand down. So having that little rubber piece or that rubber grip at the bottom of it definitely helps a lot. Now the only con about that is that because it is bigger than your side stand originally is, for me on my body kit, it does hit this bottom part of the fairing. And as you can see, there is a real nasty chunk already chipped away at the fairing, and it's because of the extension plate. When I put it up, it actually hits that area, therefore it caused the chipping of the paint. I'm gonna have to find something to cover it up or patch it up, or just put something there so that way it doesn't continue to, you know, damage this lower fairing. Alright, and pretty much lastly, I do have an LED kit on my bike, and it's controlled by Bluetooth. Now here is the app. Now let me go ahead and turn on the lights. And there we go. So see, I do have lights here in the front, right up here, of course down below, in the back, And I also decided to put some inside the tank cover. So I'll be showing you this in a second. I'm going to go out to the back end of the alleyway and actually putting the lights so you guys can see it a lot better. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for the LED kit. As you can see, it lights up the bike very well. And as far as the front DRLs, the camera doesn't really do it justice, because in real life it looks a lot, 100 times better. Alrighty guys, like I said, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like button. If you haven't yet subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That way you guys are up to date with my latest videos. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike button. Let me know in the comments below on why you disliked the video. And thank you for watching.